So in order to get ourselves in the ballpark of discussion here, is we have to figure out what we're doing and what we're not doing. Okay? So this is Kokyu hole. And the whole kanji denotes like cultivation, drilling. It's probably the best translation. So I'm drilling Kokyu. You can't look up Kokyu in a dictionary. It's not going to work. And its meaning is really, really old, and by circumstances quite esoteric. So rather than go through that full history, we'll just say it does not mean breath. Is it unrelated to breath? No, I didn't say that. But it does not mean breath. So you're not going to breathe your way here. In fact, you could drill Kokyu and use Kokyu in the larger sense while holding your breath, exhaling, inhaling, whistling, singing. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your breath. It does not mean breath. So you're drilling Kokyu to gain the skill of Kokyu. And what is that skill? It is the yang variant of internalizing energy. As a yang variant, it has particular characteristics, but none of those characteristics are antithetical to the yin variant of internalizing energy. So at a certain point, the yin variant is not clearly distinct from the yang variant. The yin variant is Aiki. Why have a drill and not call it Aiki hole? You could have. But in my experience, there is a passivity to Aiki. It more happens as a result of something not happening. So to cultivate Aiki is kind of weird. But I can cultivate Kokyu. But in the cultivation of Kokyu, the cultivation of the yang variant of internalizing energy, you're going to have to do Aiki. It cannot not happen. But there's another reason for why you would have a Kokyu hole and not an Aiki hole. Well, the first reason is you will have an Aiki hole and a Kokyu hole, right? And then the second reason is no Aiki hole because it happens passively. But the third reason is that from a pedagogical point of view, what helps the beginner move from no Kokyu, no internal skills, to having those skills, it is much easier to go through Kokyu than to try to go through Aiki. Okay? So, that said, it's not sparring. It's not self-defense. It's not a wrist grab defense. It's not a throw. The fact that he is thrown is irrelevant to the drill. Okay? It's not a technique either. Has it become a technique? Yes, it has. Has it become a throw? Yes, it has. Has it become some sort of wrist grab? Yes. Are there people who go, no one would grab you to sit like that in front of you. He'd just punch you. You see, they're working from a sparring point of view. This is all degeneration, all bullshit. It happens both inside Aikido and from outside Aikido looking at Kokyu hold. In that sense, what you're doing is very akin to, as an analogy, is if you want to, let's say you have a martial concern, and he knows from experience it's better to be stronger than weaker from a martial concern. So he's going to work out, he's going to lift weights, and he's going to be very strong. He's a very strong dude. But that doesn't mean he can fight. So he develops that skill, and with that skill, he goes on to develop his martial capacity. Likewise, Kokyu is not in itself a martial skill. But once you understand Kokyu, once you understand Aiki, you have to go on, if you, from a martial point of view, you have to go on to figure out how to use it. You're not going to use it like this. I sit down here and he grabs me. This is a drill. So as a drill, or as a skill development that I would later use martially by developing myself martially with technique, with strategy, with experience, just like lifting. If he's doing bench press, I don't come by and go, that bar does not hit back. This is bullshit. This person does not understand what a true martial concern is. Okay? The bar has an expected role in order for him to develop himself strength-wise for a bench press, let's say. So too does a uke in Kokyu hold. They have an expected role. Okay? Their expected role is to touch me at the wrist and spinally displace me with their own Kokyu projection. Okay? While he's doing that, that'll provide the energy that I internalize, let pass through my body, go down onto the ground, my contact point with a greater mass, in this case the ground, bounce off of the ground, back through my body, and into the center of his body. Not back into his shoulders or into his hands. Okay? Whether he falls or does not fall is irrelevant. What you should see is as if, will you come over here? There'll be like a projecting force into the center. From how he's sitting now, that's about where his himo is on his hakama, okay? And it'll look like if somebody grabbed him from the belt and kind of pulled that thing out. Okay, so let's watch his center. And you can go gradually but slow. And you can see that part right there where this kind of caves around it. Okay, we'll do it again. Right there is what you want to look for. So I'll show you some contrasting things. So what I'm not doing is I'm not trying to create a lean in his body by manipulating his line of gravity. Okay? I'm not trying to take this hand this way, lift up his elbow, and then just lean his line of gravity outside his base of support. So if you watch his center, it just kind of spills out. Can you see that? Okay. You can do the same arm techniques. You know, I have a yin arm out here where I cut over the top, and I have a yang arm over here. Can still have his elbow up, but something different happens to his center. So on this one, he kind of rolls out of his base of support, and on the other one, boom, I push him out. I project his center out of his base of support. That projecting, that's indicative of Kokyu. Okay? That separating energy, him from me, is indicative of Kokyu. And Aiki is a yin variant. So there's no projection, there's a drawing in, and there's no separation. There is a communion and adhesion, okay? So for example, just to show it and get in the conversation, this goes into his center right there, into his center, or right here is that I can use that Aiki adhesion. You see that? So as I'm drilling Kokyu, boom, hop, and I'll come right into the next one. A loose connection again. I can accelerate his energy into me with, not by getting out of the way, but with that same Aiki adhesion. So here, I'm going to use that adhesion. Here I could be on the outside and use that energy. And then send it back out. Okay? All right, let's keep going with more of what it is and what it's not. All right? Go back to the idea that he has a prescribed role. His prescribed role sets up the drill. I'll be the uke. When I attempt to gain a Kokyu projection of his center, you see, of his center, and he does not let himself be projected, from the very beginning, we have established a center-to-center relationship. What would not be that? And just here. Loose. Okay? Just loose. That's it. Or shoving my shoulders in. That's only here. My Kokyu engagement starts as uke, where you have it not by here and shoving, but generating the initial relationship. There it is right there. So he's pushing it into my center, I'm pushing it into his center. What he's going to do now is let that energy pass through him, boom, and then push it back into my center to get it to go. Watch what can happen if I start changing my role. So I didn't do it. There's no initial training drill. The bar is not on the uprights. Okay? Or I do start it, and when I feel it, I now went limp again. It's loose again. So I have that relationship, and my goal as uke is to keep that relationship so that he can send that energy down. I go whoop, whoop. I just escape from that relationship. If you watch the energy that he's projecting up to move my, go ahead, do it slow. The energy that's coming back into my body, right there, I will absorb in my arms. You see that? Okay? Now, the bar on the bench press all of a sudden got all rubbery. It's not working for my skill. Okay? So to set the drill up, you establish the center-to-center relationship. That means my center is in my hands, and my energy is going into his center down. He will feel that, aim it back into me, and there is, so to speak, the initial conflict that the Jiu-jitsu will reconcile. Okay? It will reconcile it internally, though. Boom, pop, boom. Okay? Let us get there. Good. Okay, so one thing was already said, and that is that when I project back, I don't project into your shoulders. I'm not projecting So someone who might not have ever experienced this tries to figure it out with the tools that they have, okay? And for example, if they are doing Kokyu Ho and they're practicing a throw, this kind of throw, or by extension, what is that? That's just a manipulation of your frame, let's say, or your posture, such that your line of gravity falls outside your base of support, and then you will tilt over. You see? So I go. Are you all right? Any of those versions, so, you know, I come here and you see, and then I turn. All of that is the same. It is an external manipulation of her shape such that her line of gravity falls outside her base of support and she loses her balance, which she then recovers with a roll. Okay? Another external manipulation is the one where I just push into your shoulders. So you have a job to do, you did not do your job there, so I'll correct you first. You have to find my center, okay, got it? And I would say already, you're already in your shoulders when you do that one, okay? But go ahead and do it, and I'm not supposed to do it back to you. So I'll use you a lot here, okay? So the person's pushing at me, and someone trying to figure out what is going on is going to think that because she has her arms straight, that I'm just pushing into her shoulders. Okay? But if we go a while, you'll see. Well, that one didn't go in her shoulders clearly. Her hands were way below her shoulders, okay? Another one is when I go to push, so I'm not pushing like this, and you're not supposed to push back like that. If I pick up the energy, you will never be able to do it. Okay, if you're doing shoulder to shoulder push, external manipulation. Okay, so we go, and I keep that pressure on. She'll never, every time she pushes into my shoulders, come on, you're gonna do it, do the technique. It'll never happen, do you see? I'll show you. The more he increases the pressure, the more he's really trying to get my center going. Do you get it? The opposite happens. So if I'm doing it internally, the more energy he gives me to work with, the actual easier it is. When you do an external manipulation, the more energy you're given to work with, the less you can do with it. It just overpowers you, okay? So he's going to get tired because he's putting all that energy, and you'll see, like, let's say like medium energy, you can see, look at how much movement that was. That's still a lot of movement. But he pushes hard, less movement. He's really driving, and I can do less every time. Do you understand that? So that's the distinction, okay? So we're going to pick it up now. Some of you are going to get shut down because you're just here and you're just trying to shove someone down, okay? So Tristan was able to kind of shut two of you down, but I want Nagas to be shut down, okay? And only the Nagas that can do it, they'll be moving less and doing it. Drive. Okay? And again, you can see the trajectory is in the center. not in the shoulders, okay? Let's drive hard.
Hi.
Switch rolls. Okay, so I'm looking at this thing and I'm trying to figure out, I've never felt that. It is, I would say, in Aikido, it is more likely that you have not felt these skills. You have, in essence, a lot of unsophisticated to sophisticated external manipulation of someone's equilibrium, for the most part, makes up most Aikido. And then a whole lot of cultural fiction that supports the delusion that somebody of high rank has these skills. They don't. They do not. My teachers did not. They don't. Simultaneously, you have another art that is connected historically to the founder that, in my opinion, is doing something radically different when they talk about internal skills. So Daito Yu is doing something totally different. For them, they believe, or they posit, or they suggest that what they're doing is different, by which they mean better. So, yes, there might be some Chinese influences, or there might be some coming to a different solution on the same problem, but there's an air that it's better. And I would say it's not. I would ignore completely what that lineage is saying as far as internal skills and stick with this stuff, okay? There's a longer history with many more arts that understand yin and yang internally, not just externally, and understand it as just generally described here, a yang separating energy and a yin communing energy. In that vein, there are so many countless traditions that make way more divisions, way more categories to describe what is going on. Some get very poetic, some get very esoteric, and it's just, to me, it is irrelevant because none of it helps you actually get these skills. And we will have to discuss why. All of those things, no matter how scientific they get today, such as it's in your fascia, is all poetic. They are all upaya. They are pointers trying to get somebody who has no experience of it to experience it, to become sensitive enough to experience it and distinguish it from what it's not. So far as you guys were going, we could see that many of you thought Kokyu is just sending energy back up the shoulders and kind of taking advantage that he had rigidity in his arms, but it's not that. Okay? So let us continue to look more into what it is not. Okay? So I described it, and here I am telling you how I'm describing it is equally poetic, meaning as a upaya, it both points to what you're trying to do, but as a upaya, it's also an obstacle to what you want to try to do. Okay? Which means it's both true and not true. So the poetic that I use is that his energy is going to go down into my body and down onto the ground. That's the imagery that you're using, okay? Let's see. So some might look at this and go, no, this is just a skeletal alignment and a sound body mechanics. Okay, so yet it failed us when the guy pushed really hard. Okay, so what I describe poetically is that energy is going into me and going down. There's nothing in that says I need to have good skeletal alignment, good posture, or anything at all. Do you understand? Okay. So, for example, if he's pushing here, you can look at, well, that you have skeletal alignment and you just have sound body mechanics. Okay. But there's some problems here. Go ahead and keep pushing. My arm is not rigid. So this would make sense to a secular materialist. But this starts to not push really hard. This starts to not make sense. Okay? And same as I start going here. This doesn't make sense. You can do different things. This doesn't make sense. Push. This does not make sense. I have terrible mechanics. Okay? Push. Terrible mechanics. Moving back into position does not make sense. Likewise, he's out here and he's pushing. If I can take the energy that's coming forward and put it and take it off the straight trajectory that the secular materialist sees, and aim it down, then I can do it off to the side. In other words, I don't have to go, he could be out. That same energy is here. Not like, distal end of the lever, he should have it. Weak deltoid. This energy here is going same place, same exact place. And like if I want to move, it's loose, but I can move. Back into him. Back into him. You can get up. You can sit down. Do you see that? It's not the skeletal alignment. So watch how many times I don't actually have skeletal alignment or mechanical advantage with fulcrums and levers as we're going. Okay? We'll go. This one, this should not be working. There's a lot of weight on there. Another one. This is energy too. What you see a lot is this. Here is a mechanical advantage. You see? So if I go here and I brace myself, he pushes and I'm bracing here, but this is different. This is different. Same thing, smash the arm, smash it. He's pushing. It's still going into the ground. I don't need my hand out there. Same thing, I can stand up, go push. relax. That energy is going down. And I can send it down and back up. So I'm not out external, trying to shove him down. I'm trying to figure out how to get his energy to no longer contest where it is touching me and to pass through me. 2 times. In a yang way, in a yin way, and then in a yang way. Okay? His energy is coming in. Boom. Where do I send it? Not into his shoulders, back into his body. Boom. Okay? Let's try it on the shoulder press. Okay? Chest, go. Good. Under her shoulders. Put it in his center. Better. So do you feel that external push when you push up his arms like that? What did we learn from the last segment? When you push up his arms like that, what if he's really pushing back at you? You're gonna go bouncing off, okay? Try not to go up his arms. Get your head back in place. So we've mentioned what you're not doing, and what you're doing is that energy going in and back out. But we are understanding that as upaya, so it's both true and not true. Okay? Well, how do you do it? That's another question. Okay? And this part is important because this is what makes skill at Aiki and Kokyu paramount to the identity of the art. So there are 3 marks of the art. These are the defining marks. Outside of these 3, anything can be, and everything can be. The first mark is divine communion. However, whatever that means to you, but it has to mean this, that a reconciliation of the subject-object dichotomy in the experiencing of life. So what you want to do, probably the easiest way of understanding that, and it is not easy, is to just allow the religious historical record to tell you what that is. And when you look at what that is, from O-sensei's traditions to St. John of the Cross, it is that passive receiving of the divine. It is grace. You don't do it. You undo you, and it happens to you. It is done through grace. So, Sensei did these possession rituals. That's what they are. You learn how to, in our discourse, deconstruct the ego tripartite. And the second mind aspect starts to function passively. That is divine communion. Well, that's what you're doing when I let your energy into me. I'm not obstructing it. I'm letting it into me. These two things here are concentric in their mechanisms. But they're distinct. But they're the same. Structurally, how they function is the same. I get out of the way, and this energy is allowed to pass through me both ways. If we look at what stops divine communion, well, I defined it. It's your ego tripartite. But the ego tripartite functions with and through fear. So here you are, and we're doing the second mark of Aikido, the Kokyu, the internal aspects. Why you can't do them is you are in a state of abiding in fear. And fear keeps a separation, keeps you separate from God, keeps you separate from the divine, keeps you separate, subject and object dichotomy. When we say Aikido is love, we mean that separation is no longer my experience. We don't just mean it psychologically, we mean it energetically, we mean it experientially. We mean it in all ways. So if I come to this thing and you pay attention, when he goes to do his role, do you see that? If you can observe and gain a subtle skill at identifying what you're feeling and thinking at that point, you will see that you are in a dichotomous experience right now. He is pushing on me. And in that dichotomy, you don't want this to happen because you're starting to feel a cave. And at the speed of life, you start pushing back on him. As opposed to, I can keep my hands here and change this relationship entirely. Do you feel that difference? So here, I'm going to change it. Boom. And you can see I'm free again. Here, not free again. Holy cow, if I move any, he's going to start tipping me over. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You can do it. Whoa, okay, here we are. I'm going to let it go again. It's gone. And I'm free again to move. And that is why the founder is right. At a certain point, your martial concern, it just gets in the way. Because your martial concern is fear-based and dichotomous-based. And that is why you want to learn Aikido? Just do Kokyu Ho. Every technique is Kokyu Ho. You can make it such. Not me throwing him. Not me wondering, will a real guy grab you with their hands like that? I don't think so. Okay? So as I'm doing this skill, you cannot leave the spiritual component out because it's a spiritual thing. I gotta not feel threatened by him. And the second I'm not threatened by him, that energy passes through me and I can move everything else but for where I am grounding it. Do you understand? So, here, Terrible mechanics. Terrible mechanics. I can just release. And it goes through me. Goes through me. Not free again. Terrible mechanics. And whatever I want to do, I want to go into his center, so I go in his center. I want him to go around me, so I have him go around me. I want him to go to that corner, so I have him go to that corner. This corner over here, we go to that corner. This corner over here, go to that corner. I want him to go straight back. Okay? So, how do you do it? This is my, I'm not a fan of all the poetics. Take the dragon chi and move it to the Jupiter orbit. No. Okay? You want to practice a releasing skill. Okay? And you have to start from a place of tension first. Okay? I think of it as like a game where, or Jenga. You're going to take tiles away that are not necessary for the tower to maintain its integrity. So first you have all the tiles in place. Nice tense body. Okay? And then he's going to start to release things. Don't let your elbows go back too far, unless you have my center, okay? Release. See what other tiles you can take out. And your skill, you can say, is where I only need one tile and everything else can go to crap. It's not important, okay? So he's pushing, and I can be pretty relaxed. And as you get more skilled, you will be even more relaxed. And less movement. And you can see, what I feel is like, oh, he got me there. It triggered my push on him. And so that's my skill to release it. Not releasing it this way. You could, but internal release it. Relax it. He'll push, it'll trigger, release. You'll also have a separating mind when you feel the throw. Got him. That will take away your internal skills. Do not be concerned with the throw either. Just the feeling of it going through your body. All points of contention, let them go. Whatever's not involved with the structure, let it go. Release. Okay? So you can think of Kokyu hold then as a releasing skill development drill that is concentric with the releasing skill necessary to receive the grace of divine communion. Okay? Let's try it. Feel the desire to throw him. That's a fear-based. That's a separating psyche. Just feel the energy go through you, come out of you. That's all you feel. Release and move. You can move. Just don't push on him. yogic understandings behind all this, and that's just to, again, simplify the historical record. We can say in modern terms there is no division between the mind and the body, and that is why certain thoughts generate certain bodies, it generates certain experiences of the world. Okay? So, in order, for example, if I have a fear state, if I get pushed by my ego tripartite into a dichotomous relationship with him, that's where you try to push on him. But we remember that if he's driving with Kokyu, you're going to get overpowered every single time. Well, if we look at it yogically, that fear state made me go into my shoulders. I did not keep my shoulders out of it. I did not keep, let's just say, center. Or better said, I did not keep the formation or the organization of my body such that his energy passed through me and went to the ground. Instead, he goes to push, and I locked it up in my shoulders, which got overpowered. Okay? So you could say that fear states not only block the receiving of energy or the receiving of grace, but they create blockages at my limbs. They become separated from my body as a whole, and I become over-dependent on them. This is important because once you understand that uke is not at all a barbell. Uke is doing the same exact training that I am doing. So the energy that he first gives, right? Once it comes bouncing back into me, I receive that energy. It, like grace of God, comes into my body and I receive it, as opposed to entering into the fear state. Take it a little bit more. And you feel like, see how he's got me? What the afraid uke will do is regain control. Do you see that? And they will take that energy out of their center, go a little more, and put it in their arms. This is a very inefficient way of doing Kokyu Ho. But it will lead to other things that you can gain from. Okay, so you brought that up, that I have a hard time, I think you used the word connecting with the uke who's disengaging. It's true, okay? But from this point of view, this uke is no longer training. So, for example, the same mass as I project into him, he comes back, I have that same organization in my body. It's the exact same thing, just I received it. The afraid uke, who disconnects and puts it in their shoulders, same thing here, I feel it it's in my shoulders again. So now I'm not training. But what you can do is, and it is more difficult, as the skilled nage, is it makes what you're trying to work on harder to achieve, so it increases your skill in it. Okay? So she's pushing, and you can see already there's nothing in her arms here. So what I have to do is find her body. And this elbow, do you see how that elbow is starting to go in? I'll show you. You're going to have to come closer to see all this over here. And you can see from here. So I want to identify the problem. So there's no push here. Do you feel that? You're not displacing me at all. okay, which is fine. And now I'm gonna go into where I can still get her center. So here I am, there it was, did you feel it? Right there I am, feel for it, okay? And then watch what you do. This elbow right here. This elbow, you're starting to go around my energy. Do you see that? Okay, so I go, there it is right there. And then I'll move, and you're going around my energy. You're feeling that energy right there. You see that? And you're going around the energy. Okay. All I have to do, and this takes us to the third mark of Aikido, is Takamuso Aiki. So same thing. All of this I just do spontaneously. Every time she's moving, I just keep moving with her to keep the same center connection. Okay? When I have a good barbell, he establishes the center connection. I go in and down and out, and he keeps the center connection. Here my barbell kind of wigs out on me. When does it wig out? Pay attention. In other words, it's not wigging out here. You're in my center right now. Do you feel that? There it is right here. This is all loosey-goosey. Okay? Why did it do it there? Who can guess? Why did it not do it here? Push. Why does it find here?
It's well balanced.
You're well balanced. Do you see that? But the second I go here, there's that mushy. You see the shock absorption of her elbows. Why? Because now you're off balance. So what kind of emotional state are you in? A panic, right? Fear. It's a fear state. And so now she's not in her center, okay? But for me, I will just keep constantly adjusting as she's doing that and refining her center through what she's doing. Can you see that? So you see how she's still got projected out. It's not at the end that I go here and I go. I'll keep working. Every time she counters, and I keep going into her center. Keep going into her center. Can you see that? But if you pay attention, she constantly disengages her center, folds her elbows, opens her shoulders, lets her wrist go. But it doesn't matter. In some way, I'm going to find her center. Here we go, girl. You see all the little adjustments, okay? Can you feel that? All right. Can you feel where you try to let out the air? You're trying to take energy off, okay? So the downside for you, though, is you're wasting half of your training. So I would say this, and again, you have to remember you're doing a drill. The more throwable or the more projectable uke is going to be the more projecting nage. They understand the body mechanics. They understand the fearless state. They can do it back. They're not wasting 50% of their training time. Okay? But if I get an uke who keeps coming out because they keep going into a fear state, then I will use them to work on the third mark of Aikido, which is that Takamusu Aiki. I don't need her to push on me. It's just Kokyu Ho as a drill has them push on me. As you work later with this skill, you should always find someone's center, no matter where you touch. Their mass itself and its place on our gravitational plane is enough energy that you send it internally, as we just described here, both in and down and out and up. Okay? You don't need the extra push and lockout. But it is a harder skill. Okay? Because it requires that constant adaptation. Let's do this. And that's where the game comes in. Remember the other game. okay? So the game, which I'm not calling Kokyu hold, is he is trying to touch my chest. And he's trying to get out of my counters. You see? So in that way, like the scaredy uke, he will disengage from me and try to get himself free, and I will have to be required to all these disengagements to still find his center through the disengagements. Okay? As opposed to what does it sometimes look like? Is people are here like this. You got it? So I'm here. And again, people will look at it and go, why can't he get off? He's trying to get off. He's trying to get off. It's a combination of, here I followed him. So he got so limp, I just followed him. But right here is an Aiki. Do you feel that? You see, there's an adhesion right here. So you're like, why can't he go down? Because the Aiki adhesion is there. It's starting to take his balance. So he won't go down. He'll do something else. He feels that. You see? And where I can't, here, I don't know, that feels pretty good. I might not do anything. You see, in other words, I kind of got a little bit there. But if necessary, I'll come back on the inside. You see? And then this hand has a Kokyu. So he will, so you see I have his balance. So he'll try to get himself free of that, you see? And again, it's still there if you pay attention. You see? It's still there, so he'll try to take it off. And I follow it again. It is back again. That's no different a skill than when the scaredy uke is trying to bleed off energy into their center. Okay? So let's play the game for a little bit.
Really good.
Yep. So a lot of it is in your shoulders. So do you feel how you're always behind? Okay. That's where the adhesion comes in, and that's where you have to do it on the uke side, so you have 100% training time, not 50% training time. So right at touch, you can be in her center. You don't have to wait for her to try to touch your chest, right? Right when you touch her, get in her center. She'll try to counter by freeing her center. In her body. She'll counter. So Rain, try to figure out her favorite moves. She likes to control the biceps, okay?
Hi.
You gotta free your biceps.
Hi.
This is not Kokyu hold. You see how she gets your biceps every time. Okay, now again, if she has a knife in her hand, you're just pushing her biceps, right? It's not really it kind of wins the drill, but not really the skill. It's very slippery. Do you feel that? So the Aiki adhesion is missing. Okay, so if you look at the historical record of, let's keep Divine Communion, the historical record of Divine Communion, it is not a common experience. Statistically, it is an uncommon experience. Does everyone have the potential? Yes, they do. Does everyone who is seeking it achieve it? No. Likewise, as the internal aspects, Kokyu and Aiki, are just concentric manifestations of Divine Communion, if you look at the historical record, across the traditions, is it a great number of people who can do it? No, it's not. Is it guaranteed that everyone who puts themselves on the path is going to achieve those skills? No, it's not. They tell you it's not the case. Is it possible for everyone? Yes, it is. But if you understand it in terms that I described here, we can say it's only as possible as we can cease existing in a fear state. And now you know, not only is it not possible for everyone, but at certain times and under certain conditions, even someone who could do it under other conditions and at other times might not be able to do it here and now. This is important because to me, oftentimes trying to do it is just another fear state and gets in the way, and you can't do it. So you're trying to get that person not to touch your chest, and all of that trying is all fear, and now you're just tense in your shoulders, there's no adhesion, it's very slippery, and you're constantly following someone, which means you're reactionary, but there's no chance you're going to get it. It's a matter of time only before they get it. And this is why, as Aikido Kihon Waza can be considered just Kokyu Ho in general, it's all Kokyu Ho. And that Kokyu Ho is about developing a particular skill or a particular body-mind organization, then any martial concern has to include elements outside of Kihon Waza. You don't fight with Kihon Waza. When you're doing your Kokyu Ho, you're not training to fight. You're training a skill set that could be used martially. But you have to go on and figure out how to use that skill set martially, just like strength. As I mentioned earlier, if you understand that, you can liberate yourself from the incessant message of self-defense and of someone attacking you and you stopping them, or you gaining victory over them because you threw them. And instead of self-defense, it's self release. So I'm not trying to throw him. I'm not trying to stop him from touching my chest. If you pay attention, every time you try to stop them, before that, micro spark from a stone timing before that, you already were in that state of fear that this bad thing was going to happen. And then you got into your shoulders and you just started bracing on them. And in the game, depending on the uke's nature, they either overpowered you or they just slipped around you and touched your chest. Every time. That thing happened. That process happened. Fear, dichotomy, limb isolation, overpowered or too slow, not adhering enough, can't stay up with them. So, as we now look at ourselves and make a problem out of our effort to achieve something, even as noble as self-defense, or even as noble as I want divine communion. But understand that that's what is exactly stopping me from getting it. Then we can, in some way, hopefully, reorient ourselves in our training. And then maybe, again, not guaranteed, maybe we can reconcile fear and receive grace. There's no guarantee. But all that said, you are much better living a life where you've made a problem of fear and you have a practice wherein you try to reconcile fear and you aspire and orient yourselves towards receiving grace than if you binge watch Netflix and get all social justice out and try to have a job that gives you meaning and use your soulmate to bring you meaning and all that secular materialist bullshit. It should be a no-brainer now. The culture's not working. We're going mentally ill. We're spiritually bankrupt. We need to return to these paths. Okay? So yes, you're going to struggle with tense, relax, tense, relax, tense, relax. But even tense, relax, tense, relax, tense, relax. So, in other words, you're like, he's pushing, and you're like, ah, and then you go relax, and you just, oh, that kick, yeah, that's not it. That's not it. But this desire, or let's say the possibility of fluctuating between tense, relax, it all comes from the same state of being. It all comes from a fear state. It all comes from a self-attachment state. I know it sounds weird, but all I do is stick. And it looks like he can touch it, but he knows the more he pushes, it goes into his body. And I know that the more I relax, the more it goes into his body. As opposed to I start putting it in my shoulder. Now it's just stronger, and he's starting to slip. Do you feel how you're slipping? So you can get very frustrated. You're like, I don't know what to do. That is the door. That is the door you want to walk through. That sounds crazy, but if you look at the historical record, tradition after tradition has told you, finally, you found the door. Finally you got here. Now walk through the door. Stop knowing so much. Start abiding in, I don't know what to do. Okay? So you can't go tense, release. Okay, stop all of those. Stop both of them. Don't do those. Don't do those. Okay, well, I don't know what to do. Good. Good. Your problem was you knew what to do. Okay?